Greetings, Earthlings. It's been a little while since we've been back with you, but I've just been pondering and thinking about the things that have been happening on the planet. With the killing in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and in Atlanta and Georgia. I mean, the killings all around the world has really had me thinking, wondering, what could we do? Where should we start? And the more I think about this, I think we're going to have to teach the children. Right now we're conditioned to look at people a certain way. We're not looking at them as human beings. We look at them as colors. We look at them as religions. We look at them as church instead of looking at them as human beings. If you listen, everybody is saying that I just want to be treated like a human being. You listen to people at gay rights, they say, I just want to be treated as a human being. Black Lives Matter, saying we just want to be treated as human beings because Black Lives Matter. They're not saying don't no other life matters. They just say we want to be treated as human beings because our lives matter. So it's important for us to understand just what's going on. So in order for that to happen, laws will not make that happen. We are not going to pass any laws that's going to have people starting to treat each other as human beings because we weren't taught that. But from the beginning, we were not taught to treat each other as human beings. If you look at, okay, I'm an elementary counselor, I have 36 years experience. I worked in Florida and Pennsylvania and currently in West Virginia. There's no place in our system that we treat each other as human beings. If you look at the history of the United States, when the children study about history and they studied about the Civil War and things, a friend of mine and I, and two friends of mine and I, Henry Burke and Reverend Bill Jones, we would go to school and make a presentation because their books do not present anything positive or should I say that's negative about the Civil War. Yes, they talk about the Civil War, they throw a little bit in there to slavery, but the more I think about this, the United States has never admitted that they were wrong. In the schools, they talk about slavery. Slavery was free. It took them 2 years to actually, and 2.5 years to actually, that's why we had June 19th, because before they even actually got the message out to Oklahoma. But the thing of it is, currently to this day, no history books that are being taught to our children says anything about slavery being wrong. Not one book. Now, they give us Black History Month, but guess what? That solidifies that concept of diversity. We're so diverse that we don't even have the same history, really. And think about this. They're taking down these statues and they talk about the Confederate flag. Why, or if history was teaching us that slavery was bad, those statues would have never or should have never been put up. Because if these group of people followed an idea and a concept that was dehumanizing and abusing a people, Black people, why are we building statues? Do we have a statue of other soldiers and generals that dehumanize people? For instance, is there any statues of Adolf Hitler in the United States? Why not? We have people with German descent here. It's because it was taught that what he did was wrong. But we have yet to do that as people, as a nation. No one has ever said slavery was wrong, that you treated a group of people wrong. And so we have to start teaching that because we don't know how to work with people that doesn't look like you because we're conditioned through our minds Think about it. When you see someone black, you automatically your mind starts registering from the past conditioning. Oh, okay, they steal, they do this, they do that. So you start grabbing your purse, you start locking your cord just as soon as you see a person there. But if you would just give and treat each other as an equal, we wouldn't have a lot of these situations. Like I said, I've been a guidance counselor for 36 years. When those situations that happened to make me realize the importance of this conditioning. When I worked in Florida, blacks lived across the railroad tracks and whites lived uptown. So when I first went there, and that was in the 83. So there was a lot of prejudice and bias there. But those younger children did not have those biases. The kindergartners, they would see me in in the store, they would run and hug me, and how you doing, Mr. Ellis, things like that. But as they got older, right around that third grade area, that 8 and 9 years old, that's when they started getting that concept of color. Because when they got in third grade, they go to run to me, then they'll stop and they'll look back at their parents, especially the dads. They would look back, and I'd have to explain why your child knows me and want to hug me because so they won't go home and beat up their wives because they hear the kids know this black guy that they don't know because they ain't been to the school, so they have no concept or idea who I am. That's why it's important that we have to start teaching them early. And the thing is, we have to teach the teachers as well. I had a principal in West Virginia who it was a second grader called a fifth grader the N-word. So what happened was he calls me into the office and he wants me to scare up this little second grader so he doesn't use the N-word anymore. And I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, I don't want to scare the. I am 6'3", 230 pounds. I don't want to scare a little 8-year-old up and not using the N-word. I want to teach the baby not to use the N-word. And it would be better coming from you. It's better coming from you to teach him. That's not what we do. That's not the socially acceptable way. That's why I talk about social emotional learning. I've been doing things, but I've been talking about this for quite some time. I might use different words, different terminologies, but this is what I've been teaching. Social emotional learning is for learning how to be able to communicate in a positive and a productive way with everyone to resolve your conflict, not attack people. We evolve. We're not still cavemen and cavewomen walking on our knuckles, hitting people with clubs. We're supposed to be evolving. We can send people to the moon, but we can't get people here to work together so we can all get our 5 basic human needs: food, water, oxygen, shelter, and love. And if you look deep into our being, we have to learn how to control our bodies, understanding our bodies, and not control them so much, but understanding them so we can make better choices. Your body tells you when you're hungry. The body tells you when you're thirsty. Your body tells you if you're cold, you need some shelter. Your body tells you if you want some love. And if you don't have any air, your body will tell you need some air. You'll start choking and coughing. And the thing of it is, we have to start teaching babies at a young age how to communicate and get along with everyone. Because think about one of the major things is when there's a child is one of the big things is potty training. You want to potty train them. So how do you potty train a child? Get them to be aware of their body. Your body will say, hey, it's time to get rid of this waste material that our body has. Because if you keep playing around and playing with that car or playing with those dolls and don't get up and go to the bathroom, you're going to have a little mess on yourself because your body say, hey, I told you so. Told you it was time to get up. It was time to go to the bathroom. So we need to be able to start teaching this in our classrooms. We need to start teaching children how to work together and problem solve. But we have to do it now. But the most important thing is we got to teach the adults, because a lot of adults don't have that. We live our lives outside in. What we have been conditioned. This is how we look at people through our past. Because all our brain is just a computer. The computer was based on the brain to retain a lot of material. And we live our lives based on that instead of living our lives inside out, which would be developed through our feelings. Our feelings is the most important part of our existence and how we communicate. I'll give you another example of something that happened to me. When I was younger, when I first came to West Virginia, I was walking in the park. I seen this European or white gentleman coming towards me. And he had his face all tore up, and he was making a face. He looked at me, and I said, "Ooh, I ain't gonna speak to him." And he looked so mean, but then I stopped. I said, "Hey, that's another human being that I am passing on the planet. Speak to him. Take that time to speak to him. If he doesn't respond, then that's okay. He didn't meet the great person Aaron Ellis." But so I stopped and spoke to him. He opened up. He started smiling. We had a nice conversation. But if I would have stayed in my brain, I would not have talked to him. And see, racism is something, just a conditioning. So we have to recondition. It's going to be harder to recondition these old dogs. It's hard to teach an old dog any new tricks because of an old dog need to learn new tricks, because if an old dog doesn't learn new tricks, they become stagnant and the world going to pass them by. But so we have to start teaching. Another example is that I was driving my car. I was on my way to work, and I was going southbound to my school. Going this way, southbound to my school. Here it is. It was a car coming northbound. I stopped at the stop sign. This car stopped at the stop sign. There was a car coming down the middle of the road, going west, going east to west. Okay, when these two cars came out, they collided. And I saw him. This one that was coming southbound said she came out the road, and she shouldn't have came because this car was coming kind of fast. But instead they came out, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh, it's going to be a wreck." They hit, but as they hit, they came over and hit my car where I was at a stop sign, completely stopped at a stop sign. So here I am at the stop sign. There's a car on my front bumper, which smashed my front bumper in, and there was a car on my left bumper smashed. I'm at a stop sign. When the police officer first came, the first thing he asked those Europeans, those white people, "Hey, is it his fault?" The lady that was going east to west looked at him and laughed. "His fault? He's at a stop sign. He has a car on his front bumper. He has a car on his left bumper. He's at a stop sign. And you, in your professional opinion as a police officer, said, is it his fault?" So this is how it all gets back to being a human being. So since it was not my fault, physically it's not possible for me to hit two cars at a complete stop. The very first thing he said to me as he walked over to my car, not, "Excuse me, sir, are you all right? You need an ambulance." He asked me, because I was in the car. They were all out of their car. I was in the car because I'm the one that got hit. I had a concussion. He asked me for license and registration. Never asked me was I okay, how I felt. An ambulance was not called for me until my wife came, because I called her on the phone, and I only lived like about 4 or 5 blocks from where the accident was. Not until my wife came did I get any medical services. Now, is all police officers? No. There's a lot of great police officers in our town. The police chief, I know a lot of them through my wife and through the job that work. We developed some programs, Handle with Care, when children's parents, someone's arrested in a child's home. We helped develop that program. But my point is that This young man needed some teaching. Do not look at a situation as a killer. Clearly, he looked at that situation. There's a black guy, two white cars. There's a black guy. He's at fault. Didn't pay attention to what physically he was seeing. Mentally, he said, "Black guy, it's his fault." And he kept trying to find something with me. Does that mean I should run around and hate anybody, police officers? No. But he clearly needs some help. He clearly needs some training, because that's what this social emotional learning is about. We have to teach our children that there is going to be problems. There's always going to be conflict. Conflict does not have to be negative. Conflict is you have an idea and I have an idea. How do we put those ideas together to have a win-win? Not you win and I lose, not I win and you lose, but win-win. How do we work that out as one, as a people? And that is our problem that we're having. If that gentleman in Minnesota, that police officer had his knee on that gentleman's neck, was he looking at him as a human being, as an equal? He clearly wasn't listening to anyone else telling him that, hey, that's a human being down there, you're killing him. But no, for some reason, because he looked at it, the black person as an equal. When the situation in Georgia, they're going to hunt this man down and shoot him. Was that a human being? So when you looked at it as a human being, you cannot or would not kill someone if you looked at them as an equal. That's why they talk about so many situations. Well, in the white situation, this wouldn't have happened because you looked at them as an equal. You looked at them as something, as a person or a human being like yourself. So we have to teach everyone that they're human beings. And that's why to prevent racism, we have to teach the babies. We have to work with those, because right now in our school systems, there's 4 crimes going on, especially in the low income. I work in low income schools. There's 4 crimes go on daily. We have assault, fights, we have thefts, there's stealing, and vandalism. Vandalism is a felony. They're writing on the walls, tearing things, that's a felony. So there's 3 crimes that are committed in the school. And then my last one, I call it line rage, because how many students, you talk to your own kids at home, or if you're a teacher, look at your own classroom. How many times have people argued and shoved, pushing to go to the same place? I do a little thing, whereas I'll get in a line, I'll get at the back of the line, and I'll tell the classroom to count 1001, 1002. Depends on how many students are there. As they start counting, I'll go by and pretend like I elbowed this one, and I'll call this one a name, and I'll say something this one and pull this one's here until I get in the front of the line. It may take me 6, 7, maybe 8 seconds, depends on how many people in the line. Now, and then I ask them, look at all the people I hurt in those 6 or 7 seconds just to be in the front of the line. I've hurt 4, 5, 6 people, Earthlings, just to be. We go in the cafeteria so I could be get my meal 7 seconds sooner than the rest of them. That's how little we respect each other as human beings, as Earthlings, because we are not taught that. And now you take that same person in 10 years, give them a car. We've all know about situations about road rage. So it's important that we start teaching, and we can start that by our history books. We don't want to hear no more about black history, right? You know, that's separating our history. We need to put in our books, when we are teaching our children about the Civil War, why the war was being fought, and that the United States was wrong. The United States have yet to ever admit we were wrong to enslave a group of people. To not only just enslave them, but you take away not teach them. want to keep them illiterate. Because when you keep someone illiterate, then they can't learn. Here we came from the continent of Africa. And by the way, there's 54 countries in the continent of Africa. Most people, when they talk about Africa, they say, oh, just Africa. Oh, well, what country? Oh, it's just Africa. No, it's not just continent, not just Africa. It is a continent. There's 54 countries in the continent of Africa. So each one of them have their own system, just like here, just like in Europe. That's why sometimes instead of saying what you people want to say Europeans, because where are they from? Europe. But we single out their countries, but not in the continent of Africa. But so we need to learn how to get in our classrooms and teach our children that we are going to have differences. There is going to be conflict. Like I said, you have a brain and I have a brain. But let's work that out in a peaceful and a productive way. And the only way we can start doing that is by rewriting those history books. How do you think those kids would feel sitting in class, black children would feel sitting in class when you start studying about slavery and Civil War? You said that in the book it said that this was wrong. America, Southerners were wrong. They had it wrong. That's why we had the Civil War, because they were treating a group of people, enslaving a group of people, abusing a group of people, just so they could make money. Because think about slavery, you had no overhead. You had no overhead. You had to pay no insurance. You didn't have to pay no salaries. You just gave them a little bit of food, and you can work them all day long if you wanted to. But not only that, you owned their children. So when they had children, their children was your slaves. How could you do that and then not admit that you're wrong? Because, see, in problem solving, first thing you got to admit that you got a problem. America, for the longest, have not admitted that, oh, yeah, we got racism here in America. They always talk to, oh, racism is dead. I don't see it wrong, because you don't see it, per se, especially here in Parkersburg, West Virginia, where I'm at, where it's only like 1% black. So you're not going to see it. But it's not going to be so much outlandishly because about the numbers. But it's here. In order to problem solve, you have to first admit you have a problem. You have to first admit that you have a problem. In order to solve a problem, you got to admit you got a problem. If you don't admit it, then you're going to keep doing the same thing. I ain't got no problem. They got a problem, not me. First, you admit that you have a problem. And then you look at what you need to change. That's called problem solving. Admit you have a problem, address it, and look at what you can do to change to make it better. And that's what we need. Yes, those laws that they're working for about the no-knock law, that's a great law. The no strangling, that's a great law. But then we have to evolve into the classroom and teach them, because right now people are still dying. And the only way it was going to stop for the future of this planet is for us to learn to work with each other. You think about this. Human beings, Earthlings all over the planet. We're in London, they're in Australia, they're in Scotland, places that don't have a large black population. But guess what? We have not seen anything about Africa, the continent of Africa. Not one country, I don't think I haven't seen anything about any countries in the continent of Africa. But people all over the world are standing up because this is not right. You're not treating people as human beings in America. You're not treating them as an equal. And until we start doing that and working together, we're going to still have problems. We're going to still have knees on people's necks, people getting shot, things like that. So it's important for us to look at what we can do in order to save our planet. And that is problem solving. That is working together. And like I said before, we're talking about people complaining about taking down statues. We don't have a statue of Hitler. We don't have any statues of Mussolini from Italy and things like that that was fought with Hitler and all those other allies that he had. We have statues of those in our country, and we have people here from those countries. We have people from Italy here. We definitely have Germans here. So it's important that we learn the importance of working together, problem solving. But we have to start teaching that. It's not something that's going to just happen overnight. We have to change. We have to rewrite those. We're going to write laws, but we need to rewrite history books. And America has to admit they were wrong. That will be the start of how we can problem solve. Because if you don't admit you're wrong, you don't have a problem. All right, Earthlings, you have a great day. And I'm going to keep communicating with you. I won't go so long next time, but I've just been thinking how I can address this. How I can not just making a video, but address it and working with my students. I continue to work with my students and teaching them that there's only one race, the human race. Do we have colors? Yes. We have beautiful colors. That's why we have a rainbow. We have beautiful history. That's why we have different foods. We have different languages. We have different costumes and music and things like that. But when it comes down to it, we all eat food. We all drink water. We all need air. We all need shelter. And most important, we all need love. You have a good day, Earthlings. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers on the planet. To all the fathers on the planet Earth. Goodbye, Earthlings.